data when it comes in. The claim is that these are this. Do I know that? Fuck, I don't know. All I know is that's the context.
Okay, I
But
saw something
that's why I'm
different.
saying about if we agree the planes are down. Let me go back to the thing. My question to Frank. I'm getting another massive fucking rainbow for the second day. This is too beautiful. So we got double rainbow yesterday. There's an additional factor with that I am curious about because who's the whipping boy for the Kremlin? The whipping boy for the Kremlin is the MOD or any sort of police force. Someone else always takes the fall, never the Tsar, right? Agreed?
I've got some breaking news that was just sent to
Raj.
me. Thank you, Aaron, for sending this to me. So apparently, the Wall Street Journal is reporting. This report is about 40 minutes old. That senior U.S. and Ukrainian officials are indicating that the previously hesitant White House may soon approve the shipment of ATACMS to Ukraine, acknowledging the urgent need to support Ukrainians' offensive.
Could you explain what ATACMS are? Sorry for the lay people in the room.
All right, so I'm inferring this from because I'm also a layperson, but I believe these are long-range attack missiles, which have a much longer range than what the Ukrainians currently have access to. I hate that Wolverine left because he would have been perfect for that question. I see Colonel Jeff showed up here, but yeah, ATACMS. My understanding is that this is something that the Ukrainians have been requesting for quite some time, and it is, I believe, something that puts a lot more Russian stuff in firing range. That would be something that would dramatically help the Ukrainians attack them. So, like I said, I hate that. I hate that, but maybe Chops can handle this, the specifics of this. Go ahead, Chops.
You know, I'm no expert on ATACMS. They do have a long range. I believe that they're very precise. Like Colonel Jeff will probably be able to shed a little bit more light on that than I do. I was just talking about those breaking news. It kind of coincides with some polls coming out, and I believe it was from CNN, mainstream media, of course. You know, take it as a grain of salt, but they took a poll that 65% of the American population does support sending more military aid and military hardware to Ukraine.
Yeah, I did see that. I think that's actually in the nest. I think I had Regina posted up there. Okay, I put the new Wall Street Journal report on the ATACMS in the nest. So I don't know if this particular link requires a subscription, but if nothing else, the headline is something to grab your attention. And I'm sure there'll be other reporting about this as well if the Wall Street Journal is reporting it.
Yeah, it's amazing how polls move political will.
So maybe Regina and Par, if you have, since I'm driving, if you have access to, if you could look into that article and maybe call whatever you can out of that article and just let us know about this information, that would be great. This can be also nice fodder for discussion, I guess, at MySpace this evening. This will be interesting.
Yeah, in like 4 hours you're having that one, right?
Yep.
The MGM-140 missile system, which is an ATACMS, is a ballistic missile manufactured by Lockheed Martin. It has a range of 190 miles with a solid propellant. It's 13 feet high and 24 inches in diameter. Its weight is 3,690 pounds, in service from 1991 to present. Unit cost is $820,000.
Nice. Well, there's some. Looks like there's some long-range anal intrusion. Additional anal intrusion coming to the Russians, courtesy of the United States of America.
Yes, it was used extensively in Operation Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Once Wolverine comes back, if he comes back, or we can certainly ask him. Well, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it tonight now, but we'll have enough military expertise tonight there to really break that down. Training, logistics, all that stuff.
Our current HIMARS, I think we're disabled to use those, the M142s, but the 12 launcher, I think the M270A1s can launch them.
Right, it was disabled because of the firmware in those. That's so that the one pod cannot mount and you shoot it.
Right, but I think the M270s, the 12 launcher, can shoot them.
Yeah, that very well could be.
Yeah, they only talked about the 6 launcher, and they continue to only talk about the 6 launcher. They never mentioned the 12 launcher. So, being that they omitted that, I would suggest that I would think that the 12 launcher can launch them since they're sending them.
I just posted up there a Ipsos thing. I was looking for actually to kind of like to question maybe the U.S. support numbers, not question, but just put in context of the rest of the world support and support across the, what the racism of IR calls the global South, right? But I actually think it's pretty strong and has remained pretty consistent across time in many of those countries. And what's the curious one for me is Brazil, because of the number of kind of like historical connections of late between Russia and Brazil, between the Snowden affair and Glenn Greenwald's transformation into whatever he is now and stuff like that. So I guess, what do you guys think about the maintenance of support for Ukraine in Latin America specifically?
I personally don't have any insight on that. But
I mean, Russia's too busy there.
To you, but I was trying to get your total picture, and then maybe there's something I can say there. Go ahead. If not, don't worry about it. I won't say anything. But can you rephrase your question to me?
Yeah, I can rephrase it. Sure. Just real quickly. So basically, I'm just curious about like how we make the case to Latin America and the global South, and kind of like countries like, say, that are not on the border of Russia, like Turkey, and don't have kind of like this weird diplomatic role with them, but rather just kind of like people who've seen regime change and wars of choice that the U.S. has done and want to, and might have some hesitancy in supporting something that is like seen as a NATO proxy war by some people who do kind of like that theorizing about in stuff in the global South.
Give me a couple of examples in your mind that you would want to
Sure.
ask about. Just to give me some regional locations, and I can give you
So
some
Brazil
feedback.
is the first.
If we're talking about Ukraine, are you talking about supporting to deal
Yes.
with Ukraine? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
Sure.
Examples.
So Brazil's the first, and Lula's an interesting case because I think he wants to be pro-democracy, pro-workers' rights, and is genuinely those things in some cases. But then there's the recent politics in Brazil and instability and the takedown of Dilma and everything like that. So there's some fodder for some ground for instability there, I think, in the Ukraine support and that pro-democracy movement in Brazil. So there's one example there. Another would be, I don't know, the separation between the United States and Mexico recently has been pretty bad in policy, and I don't know if that extends to foreign policy towards Ukraine as well. So those would be two examples.
Okay, so I can say on the diplomatic front, Ukraine is looking at options with all sorts of countries, and there's at least the acknowledgement that we see sometimes here in spaces when people come from parts of Africa, like Nigeria and South Africa, etc., that we get them to admit publicly here what we actually see operationally here in Kiev, which is that there's no reason to have a bias against Ukraine. Like, Ukraine hasn't done anything to these countries, and similar issues affect both parties. So, like, for instance, why was South Africa just here? There's partially truth because it sets up the optic that Russia gets to play to say, well, we're hunting for peace, and we're not really going to get it. So it's a bit of a feint. But the truth is a little bit more complicated than that, because someone's got a hot mic or something. Someone's hot mic there.
Yeah, I'll figure out who it is.
It's Regina.
Okay, thanks. A Chinese journalist said it best to me when she said that she can go back and report a positive story about Ukraine, but the moment she says a positive thing about America, that's not going past the state censors. And that's actually showing up in policy, in that these smaller countries, in many ways, are becoming an option for Ukraine to build an alliance they really have had to admit they didn't cultivate in the past. They didn't see a need to. And no country is left off the table where possible. So a lot of the countries that we think that we are aware of that Russia is trying to groom are definitely on the table for all sorts of bridge building opportunities with Ukraine, and they are many times currently happening. There are either delegations from there or journalists from there, which shows an interest, or many cases the countries show up on lists. But I'm going to defer partially because we have a guest here that's going to be with Brian. So Brian, take over.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to make sure I pronounce it right. Is it Roof? But you please correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm so excited that Emily has been in contact with you and that you're joining us at 5 p.m. Eastern United States time. Thank you so much for pulling up on the pre-party, if you will. How are you doing?
Pretty well, thank you, Brian. Yeah, pronunciations it's pretty much that. Herolf, you can add an A before the R in OLF. But it's no big deal. Yeah, so I was invited, and I was like, okay, let's join. Let's give some updates whenever you will ask. I'll just listen. I'll tag along if needed. Ask any questions you want. Thank you.
The format for this evening's space later in about 4 hours, a little less than 4 hours from now, is really it's just going to be a collection of people that are analysts or military veterans. Constantine from Houston is going to be joining us. He obviously Constantine, I think. So really just kind of what we're going to just do is, and this is really intended for people who haven't really been following Ukraine that closely, or maybe have some questions, or maybe somewhat skeptical but still open-minded. And really just to try, and the goal of this is to really try to get more people that are outside. And I love these people. There a lot of these are in the same spaces. The same people are in the spaces and in the discussions, and that's great. And then just posting on Twitter, which is great, that people are still here. 16 months later, but we also want to try to grow this movement and to get more people involved. And so the idea here is to have a safe space for people who safe space, no pun intended, but to have people who are not as familiar to come in and to hear it and really be able to get good sources of information so that they can follow it and hopefully get engaged. And so certainly someone like yourself who's fighting on the battle lines and can give a front line literally perspective on what's happening and what you're doing and how it came about with the Norman Brigade. That's inspiring and informative at the same time. So that's kind of the format there. It's not going to be a really formal thing, but it will be a civil thing. We're not going to tolerate any Russian propaganda, Russian trolls. I'm not going to allow the space to be turned into that. And I've got my trusty co-host, lined up to sort of help me with that, including Emily, and Par here. So that's kind of what to expect this evening. And is there? I guess you're hearing this ATACMS news just as we are. I don't know if you were in the space when that report came out, but I know that's something that the Ukrainian government has been asking for quite some time. So good news if you had not heard that already.
Yes, that confirmation is good news. It has always been on the table, to be honest. We as you said, has been requested for quite a while. Obviously, the lawmakers and the people running, MOD and all these people, they wanted to see how it was going to unfold. Are we going to get overrun, or we're going to be able to put the good fight and be able to use other weapon system that might be a little less complex. When we talk about GPS guided ammunition, this type of system, it's a little bit similar. Obviously, that's a different also technology. There is also maintenance to learn about, and obviously we don't want this technology to fall into Russians' hands. So I think it was pretty calculated. It's a little bit late, to be honest, but it's better now than never. So yeah, it's a good news.
Yeah, and those of us who've been, on the warpath, internally, domestically, with our elected officials, this has been something that has been front and center in terms of requesting this. And I want to say even there's been some legislation in the U.S. House of Representatives, if I remember correctly. There was some discussion of specifically lawmakers asking for demanding that we send over ATACMS. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my congressman for that. I believe he was not involved in sponsoring that bill, but definitely has been involved in a number of pieces of legislation for Ukraine and has been quite a strong voice, I would say, in kind of like the Kansas City area for the Ukrainian cause. So just a shout out to Emmanuel Cleaver, former mayor of KC and now congressman.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's good news. That's the best news I've heard all day when that report came over. Shout out to Aaron for finding that and making us aware of it. That's awesome. Yeah. So that's looking forward to that. So, Rolf, what? So I know the Norman Brigade is an international outfit. So what country do you hail from before this all started?
I'm originally from Quebec. I was living in Europe for about since 2014 when it all happened, and obviously when the war started, we called our friends from Great Britain, United States, Canada, also other European countries joined also. It was great to see such a collective effort. Because everybody thought, that we were going to lose the country, but we jumped into the fight anyway. There was a terrible sense of urgency, but also impending doom, because we're like, okay, well, we're going to fight against the Russians. So the acceptance was pretty fast. So sorry, by the way, English is not my first language, as you can see. So I apologize for that.
Well.
So the acceptance of that impending doom was pretty quick. We're like, okay, let's do it. Let's fucking show them what we can do. And we're quite international. It was interesting to see this.
Moi, je peux pas dire en français
Now, were these-
impending doom. Alors, je crois que ton anglais est mieux que mon français. Impending doom, that's pretty good. Your English is great, dude. Don't worry.
Thank you. I used to read a lot. So
so were these soldiers that you called up, were these people part of Operation Unifier that were part of the training of the Ukrainians from 2014, or how were those contacts already pre-existing?
No, absolutely no active service personnel. I think there was one. Sorry, I don't want to lie, but there was one active personnel. He was on vacation. He took 2 weeks vacation, and that was the good thing about us being there without contract and fighting alongside the Ukrainian volunteer army. It was okay. I have 2 weeks to give. Can I come? I said, okay, yeah, no problem. So I think I had one active service member, but all the other ones that were not involved in Unifier, I didn't even have any former soldiers were part of that operation originally. It was mainly more about American soldiers, British Army, and quite a few French Foreign Legion guys. That's pretty much it.
How long after the invasion started did you get the sense that, okay, this is not that we can actually do this, and the Russians are getting punched in the mouth, and this is not going to go how we all maybe thought it would go? How soon into the invasion did you start getting that sense that, hey, this is different than what we expected?
Mid-March. This is where we came to the realization that we were winning more than we were losing.
Yeah, which is not that long, and also a long time if you're in the middle of it, right? Because I remember going on CNN, watching CNN. Actually, I went on my first Twitter space the night after. It was the second day of the invasion is when I went to my first, the old Walter Report, which is now the Maria Report, and I remember, the analysts on there were like, what are the Russians doing? What are they doing? They're idiots. They're being stupid. Why are they not doing this? Why are they doing this? This is crazy. And then I kept hearing from CNN that, okay, Kyiv's gonna fall. And then I'm like, well, that's not what I'm hearing on these Twitter spaces with these analysts that are looking at this stuff. And then the longer that went on, it was like, okay. And then that was an aha moment for me to maybe figure out that I was not getting the true story from the major news networks. And that's something that we're going to talk about tonight with the people who are in the space. Is that let this be a lesson that you're not gonna get the full story from a soundbite and a short 2-minute segment on CNN or on Fox News. Certainly not on Fox News for much of anything, but that's a whole separate Twitter space. But so that's interesting. Yeah. What's the quality of the food like you're eating, Rolf?
Well, on Garrison, it was quite okay. Obviously, on the front line, depending of the facilities that we have access to, it's mostly canned food. Sometimes, obviously, we have jet boils, so we used to kill a goat or two that we had bought from some farmer. Then we're able to get meat probably once a week. Obviously, it depends of which area you're operating in, where's your resting area, staging area, etc., etc. So yeah, I would say it's it's not great, it's not bad, but it's there.
Do you have rations from like other European countries or anything like that, or is it kind of more of a hodgepodge of rations, or is it kind of like the Ukrainian standard rations? Or I'm just trying to I'm actually like really into military rations, so
it's by request. It depends of the availability and also what you request for. I remember I was able to put my hands on Canadian MREs, but I told the guys, look, guys, this is emergency rations. Yeah, if you're stuck somewhere, this is what you're gonna eat. You don't touch this thing until we're basically fucked. So yeah, mostly Canadian. I saw French rations. I saw British ration. That's pretty much that. By the way, French rations are pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
You have like cranberries, ostrich, like outer space fucking menus.
A little 375 milliliter bottle of wine in there, something like that.
Not anymore. Not anymore. They used to, I think, until the 2000s or something, but when Afghanistan started, I think they just went dry. Really, they used to have like cigarettes also there.
The Italian one is the one that I think is the nicest. But hey, it's pretty good. They got like lamb ragu and stuff like that. So
yeah, the Ukrainian one's good. They give you that dark chocolate bar in there too.
I've never seen one. I've been here for more than 1 year. I've never seen a Ukrainian ration.
Wow, that blows me away. Oh my gosh.
I'll probably place the request, but we're lucky enough, to have access to, I would say, more natural products. Farmers out there, and they were willing to sell us a couple livestock, so we could cook for the guys and have meat, fresh meat once a week.
So, how closely do you interact with the Ukrainian, either territorial defense units or the main Ukrainian military? Are you kind of given a set of orders that is specific to your unit, and then you go out and do your thing independently, or are you typically intermingled with other Ukrainian units in the battle space?
So we get our warning orders, we move, we connect with command and control, and then from there we mix up with other units there. I attended meeting as commander of my unit alongside with other battalion commanders, and then we plan operation together. And they don't tell you, okay, this is what you're gonna have to do 100%. Like, do you want to help? Yes, of course, because obviously we're volunteer fighters. Until December 2022, we're not under contract because we're part of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army. So, the Free Kazakhs. And yeah, they ask, would you like to help? Yeah, how can you help? And then we attend, and we're on the battle order, and we're out there. The officers running the command and control center, obviously, they were okay with us being there. They've requested our presence through obviously the unit we were embedded with, and we were sent there, as normal fighters, basically. Obviously, they were a little bit nervous to lose us because nobody wants to have to deal with, oh shit, is it gonna make the headlines if we fuck up and we lose all of them or something? You know how it is, right? They are very PR oriented. But once we showed them what we're able to do and how we were thinking, they got pretty comfortable pretty quick with us.
Yeah, because results talk, right? So, yeah, that's one of the things we're going to do early on in this space tonight is really swat down this, Azov, the Ukrainians are all Nazis, the military is all Nazis. We're going to swat that down fairly early on in the discussion. And I was just curious, as part of our conversation here, have you had any interactions with the Azov? It's battalion now, right? Because there was a smaller unit, and I think it was. I have to go back and look at the history again. But
it's a brigade.
It's a brigade, Azov brigade.
But the new school brigade, I would say, because Azov had multiple offshoots. So Azov SSO, Azov Kiev, Azov Dnipro. You have Azov, which is the actual original unit.
Okay.
So I've interacted with the original unit. Me personally, I haven't seen fucking Nazis there in that regiment, but I interacted fairly with, I would say, late generation fighters. So I didn't see anything, I didn't see any hooliganism. I didn't see any weird shit out there. Look, there's no doubt that as any other country, there's no doubt that you might have some old far left people or new right wing people, like far right wing people that are there. But it's it's at war. We have like over 700,000 people enlisted now. So that right wing thing is very, very. It's such a minority right now. So no, I haven't seen this.
Yeah, well, that's valuable. That's very valuable, because this is not something that's been. It's one thing to be fed something from a news network or from a pundit on Twitter, with an agenda and a Russian troll. And it's another thing to have served with these people in the battlefield. So go ahead, Frank.
I was just wondering if you could help me understand the nature of the Kraken Regiment. I know that GUR has the Atom Regiment as a battlefield presence. Does Kraken fulfill the same purpose for Azov?
I'm not sure I understand your question clearly. Kraken does what for Azov?
That's kind of like the highly focused, highly trained, for lack of a better word, assault battalion that is highly supported with things like intelligence, drone, and satellite intel. Does it kind of have this elite status amongst all the Azov regiments?
I don't know. The command center that I've seen obviously was not that advanced. It was advanced. We had surveillance system, obviously, as any a command and control center that respects itself. Now, what they have access to, it differs. As you know, Kraken. And this is not something classified. Kraken has a history of being a volunteer unit. Just ordinary citizens or some veterans from the ATOL, from 2014 until when the war started. That was just being at home, taking care of their family, and the invasion started. And so when the invasion started, they organized themselves. And you've probably seen a tweet about it or an article. Budanov showed up to help them basically plan some operation, or he decided to participate to see how they were thinking, how they were operating, etc., etc. And when Budanov saw that, they knew the terrain, you had such genius into this unit that the GOR decided to support them with all the capabilities that they were asking for. Obviously, it's not perfect because even Kraken has to raise money for different material. But when it comes to intelligence, they are very intelligence oriented, and this is what I'm saying. We all know that. So Azov also is supported, but it's a different branch. Azov is National Guard, while Kraken would be part of the GOR. So it's another branch. You have a couple branches out there. You have the GOR, you have the National Guard, you have the Territorial Defense, and you have the Ukrainian Armed Forces. And then on the side, you have volunteer organization that was approved by Commander-in-Chief Zaluzhny, which you have the Ukrainian Volunteer Army, and you have another branch which was Duk, I believe, and it's basically Pravi Sektor, and Pravi Sektor became an official assault brigade. I'm not sure in which branch, but the last branch that remains free and without contract, I would say, is not the Ukrainian Volunteer Army.
I really appreciate that. That was exactly what I was looking for. So Adam and Kraken are both in Gur. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna drop down. I think I might have some audio issues.
We hear you pretty okay, Frank.
Yeah, I think everybody was just quiet for a little bit.
I know Brian said he got a phone call, so.
Well, I'll ask a question then. Hey, this is Chris Sampson, National Security Media from Kiev. So sending you a high five, double betcher, and stay safe out there. Fuck the Russians. What happened to that Ervesto guy? They got called out by the French Foreign Legion on Twitter, which is fucking epic. If everyone understands the mystique of the French Foreign Legion, for them to do that in many ways was like double slap. Remember that guy?
You mean that Brazilian guy who was claiming to be like super Spetsnaz forces from the French Foreign Legion?
He was Rico Suave sniper guy.
Holy
Exactly.
shit! Yeah, I remember. Look, they made a special show
He was
France
Brazilian?
to call them out. Something like
They
that.
literally
But
said he served with us for 140 days. We don't know him. Go fuck off.
yeah, probably something like that. That's the problem. You have solid dudes that were probably there for like 2-3 years, and they deserted to participate into this war. They have not finished their contract. So for us, Legionnaires, it's a little bit like, it's hard to accept them, I would say. But we can understand also why they would be craving, to be part of this conflict. So when a French legionnaire approaches me, I ask right away for proof of service, or at least a picture of him. And this the French Foreign Legion will hire probably 800 guys a year, and you have 12,000 candidates. I think they propped up a little bit the recruitment in the last 3 years, maybe, because they repatriated the 13e DBLE, which is it's like they call it half brigade, demi brigade, basically. They brought them back from Djibouti, and then they needed new people, to prop up all the regiments, to create a 5th combat company in each regiment, etc. So we ask documentation, and if, let's say, they have less than 2 years, we don't take them. I don't take them, really, because in 2 years, you will do basic, then you will go on your, let's say, infantry course or a specialty course, and then after that you will have to do another 14 weeks for a proper specialty, because even if you're infantry or you are like AMX-10 operator, you will have another specialty attached to it. You could be a combat medic, you could be into comms, you could be a mechanic, you could be anything, really. So this is the thing, and I remember when that show came out, I was quite happy, because I was like, so many people ruined it for the real Legionnaires, and they just went out there and they were like, yeah, this is what we do. You know, my name is this. I'm a French Foreign Legion guy. And we'll look at this and, hey, have you seen this guy? Yeah, he stayed with us like 6 months and we just deserted him. So they learn nothing, especially when you have like 2 years of service in the French Foreign Legion. You will be resilient, but you don't have much experience if you compare to a full hardened, like 3-4 years old, 3-4 years of service legionnaire out there. You know, we'll have like couple deployments, anti-terrorist operation in Paris, etc. So it's a shady world a little bit when it comes to these people.
Yeah, and because he was trying to compromise women here to do stuff. There was a guy that I know who was tracking him. For all who want to basically keep an eye on that piece of shit, it's Ervesto77 on Instagram. I have no problem telling you because I'm monitoring the motherfucker too when I'm just bored sometimes. Oh, what's this guy doing? So yeah, you remember that guy.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
A warning to certain people: don't come here and fuck around because there are people who are looking just for that you don't see on Twitter because they're not on Twitter and they're hanging around on what's that dating platform?
Twitter. No, not Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
Tinder. Yeah.
Yeah. So they found this guy. What he had done also was, and he wasn't the only one. He would get some nice Ukrainian girl. He'd go, oh, I love you so much, and we're going to be friends and everything. Hey, will you take some pictures over here? Well, send those to me. Oh, by the way, I have you taking pictures of area you're not supposed to. So, well, now you need to do some things for me. And he terrorized some women, and he's not the only one like that. So again, warning. Guess what? It's not just SBU that's going to be looking for those guys. I know some civilians that are hunters, and they're all over it. Could be more.
Thanks for the heads up.
We could have more. Yeah, exactly.
What a piece of shit.
Messy. So yeah, drop a follow back. We'll have coffee when you come through Kyiv.
Well, that's the thing. I was always telling the guys, you don't go on social media. Stop advertising yourself. Yeah. Stop fucking doxing yourself. They all want to be the face of that war in some sense. And the first example I tell them is like, hey, have you seen my real name out there? Do you see pictures of me flexing and be like, oh, I'm the commander of the Norman Brigade. I do this. I'm so awesome. Nobody fucking ever saw that. And I said, you should probably follow example. And every time we had like some motherfuckers like doxing themselves, I was like, okay, well, sorry, it's not going to work. You should probably fuck off. So obviously it creates some enemies, I would say, in the end, but I'd rather keep the unit and location and material safe than just having these motherfuckers.
Need to understand one thing: if the SVR were really trying to contact them, there are places that are really easy to make that happen. So you just don't know. All contact with the enemy sitting right there in that their tender thing. You know, keep it going, keep trying. Some will learn. They'll learn the hard way.
Hey, oh, sorry, KB, you go first.
By the way, I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm not sure, Joe, if you had a comment for the Norman Brigade, though. I actually wanted to just bring up a quick point. What someone talked about Latin America and Ukraine, Russia, and I just had some info on that. If you have something for the Norman Brigade, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually going to see if I could find that Twitter call out. I think I found it, but it's not quite the clapback so that I was expecting. So maybe I'm missing some more context from the French Legion, but I just was wondering if NatSec had that at hand or could let me know how to find it.
I'm sorry, trying to find what? I'm actually throwing Sorokin out of a window right now.
Oh, it's okay. I don't know what that means.
I'm literally making a video of General Sorokin being thrown out of a window. I missed your question because I'm literally.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Just real quick. So the French Foreign Legion, they did a Twitter call out, and I was trying to find it basically, and I found I found an article that has part of it, but I don't
Oh,
want to
you
have
talking
to
about this
subscribe
Predator guy?
to Nice Matin. Yeah, I'm talking about the Brazilian Ernesto, whatever the heck.
Yeah. Send me
Or
a
Besta.
message just because I have a file. Actually, I have a Word document about the guy. I can just let me go from don't. I'll make your head spin. It's okay. We're friends.
Okay, yeah. I mean, don't scare me too much. You already do with the truth, sir.
Well, the thing is it's a skill harnessed for bad guys. Everyone else, there's too much bandwidth issue to even bother with everyone else. But when you get a true bad guy, we're like, okay, how bad is he? Oh yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, oh, fuck, another file shit. It's like that. So it's sort of, there's a lot of people like, well, I hope you're not looking me up. I actually had one lady, she goes, well, since you know all these things about me, I'm like, what? Well, it's because it's you. I'm like, I don't have time. Why would I look you up? Like that? I don't think like that. No, but this guy in particular, yeah, I'll clue you in a little bit about what we can know about him. And the call out, I have a reference to that tweet.
Okay, cool.
By the way, YouTube knew that I did that because it started sending me French Foreign Legion links for like 2 weeks. It's like, no, I've already seen all these. These are good, but I don't need to see them again.
Go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. I just wanted to, I'll do all respect to the Norman Brigade. Just going back to the issue of, I guess, how Latin America stance on Ukraine and Russia. And I just put down, not in the nest, but down in the thread below, the comments below, just some information that particular to Mexico. I lived in Mexico for 16 years and my husband is Mexican and I am also of Ukrainian descent. All my family on both sides are 100% Ukrainian. And so it's really interesting because I see a lot of similarities between Ukraine and Mexico, having experience in both. We moved from Mexico 2 years ago, so I'm a little bit not fully up to speed on what's going on. But Russia has sent, I think it's been over the past year, 36 additional diplomats, in quotes, to the Russian embassy in Mexico, which is like a 60% increase and rather unusual. And I did put a link to an article, and it's in Spanish, and you can just run it through, like open it in Google Chrome, and they can translate it all for you. But that my mother-in-law shared, and I have to say, in sort of the older population in Mexico, definitely this anti-West, anti-American sentiment is still quite strong. And I would say the younger generation, middle age and lower, I think they're just like, don't have those same feelings. But basically she shared this article that came from an Arabic news site in Spanish that has a whole division in Spanish, and there was no author to the article. And it was around the time, I believe in December, that Angela Merkel spoke about her, dealings with Ukraine and Russia during Minsk and all of that. And basically this article is just very anti-West and just says that, it goes along all of the, saying 2014 was a CIA coup, that the West has been arming Ukraine since then to fight Russia, to bring the war to Russia. And Russia has had no choice. But it's an interesting article to read because it's not an article, it's a misinformation drop. And it totally feeds into these anti-West sentiments that especially the older generation and my mother-in-law holds, and my aunt, my mother-in-law's sister, also, they really buy this stuff up because they have this whole thing like, oh yeah, of course the US does these CIA coups all over the world and all this sorts of stuff. But it's also interesting to see that there are quite a number of new diplomats from Russia in Mexico. But my feeling is probably the majority of the population is not, like the younger population just isn't into all of that. It definitely feeds more into the older generation. And I'm sure All Sorts probably may be a good person for a little bit more. And then there's the NAFL fella, Maria Blancas, who I believe she works in Mexico City, who may be a good person to follow. But it's something to really keep an eye on in Mexico, because there are those undercurrents of anti-American sentiment that buys this stuff. And I find it particularly awful because I know Ukraine and I know Mexico, having lived there for 16 years, and there are way more similarities between the people and the countries. It just seems like automatic that Mexico would be on Ukraine's side. And I think in general they are. But Russia's going to work that. You know, there are southern neighbors. They're going to work that as much as they can to destabilize the U.S. So those are my thoughts about it. I don't know if NatSec, you had other information on that, but I just wanted to share. So.
Yeah, at large. I mean, I don't. Do we want to? If we want to cover this now, Brian, you're the host. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
For bringing that up.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is why the first guest on my disinformation show last October was included Evelyn Perez Verdia, because in September 2020, when I was living in South Florida, being a Texan, I was given a call to say, hey, you need to know her. She's doing specifically Spanish language disinformation. And although I had data points about it in larger abstracts, I had not, done a deep dive. And at that point, at least for a few months, we broke the sectors apart. I was looking at like who was being targeted with QAnon, who was being targeted with, comunistas y socialistas narratives, and who was it being targeted overseas? Who was it being targeted in Florida? Calling people who were in various communities in both Texas and New York to ask for comparatives. What are you hearing on the radio local? How is it resonating? So one thing I can say is that each of these countries has a particular target audience. So when I say these countries, I mean like Mexico, El Salvador, or let's see, what's this? Hold on. Okay. El Salvador, my friend in Costa Rica gets to see RT unabridged, unabated. If I go further south, if I want to say of course, if you're in like somewhere super friendly, like Venezuela, you get it. But I have a mapping system I'm currently working, starting with Europe, but I'm actually going to extend it to all parts of the world because I'm going to use a map plugin I have that will allow me some hotspots, etc., where I can really kind of isolate what narratives are being thrown to specific countries just for this purpose, just so I can see how are they exploiting this. Now, an obvious go-to that's not new, I've written about in 2018 on for research work, is Mexico. It's sort of the funny irony of like, well, how would you feel if Russia was doing something in Mexico? Like they do. I don't have to invade Mexico to stop that though. But there are natural narratives that are easy to play upon, and of course inroads that we will monitor and we should definitely map out. So if you or someone else also has certain sensitivity to it, that although I can relate to the language, and actually I can more relate to the Mexican culture than a lot of others that I have no real immersion with by comparative. It will be interesting for me because I've looked at some that I don't have a comparative with. For instance, how they target the Colombian and Venezuelan audience in Miami versus the assumption we have about the Cuban audience influence. The truth was, like in the market, it looked different than I expected, which is okay, but it wasn't the stereotype of South Miami politics, and that complicated it in some fashions to figure out, well, you can't just say it's anti-socialism, anti-communism fear. It has other complexities to it now because it's not just Cubans. So I can't suddenly start talking Batista and other eras because who gives a fuck if you're Venezolano? You know, you see what I'm saying? It starts to make, wait a minute. Now I have to think about, well, what are they wanting? So with target audience analysis, that's one of the things when it comes to counteracting propaganda is you have to do the same thing in reverse. You have to also say, well, why this audience? What's the narrative? And the good news is actually some of this is already documented. So what I'll do is I'll go see who's already been writing on it. And last part is it's incumbent. I said this before. It's incumbent upon them. It is their obligation. There'd be derelict in duty not to be trying to game all options in Mexico, right?
Oh, absolutely. And sort of the latest thing, or the most recent thing, was from my husband's aunt, who's in her 70s. And both my mother-in-law and the aunt, like, news sources should be giving you factual information. So I think they take things in as they read it. And for the aunt, the latest thing was about the U.S. is planning to invade Mexico to root out the cartels. And that's just like a ruse to do further things. And she's getting this from like YouTube channels. But, and that sort of has come off of some little chatter in Congress about, dealing with the cartels in Mexico. So I keep my eye on that because I do think it is something that Russia can or would exploit, especially
Okay, right. So all exploitation for disinformation and any operations we would do would understand their needs assessments, need for security and fear, away from fear, etc. But I forgot something I was going to say until you brought me to it, which is older folks relating to news is a very complicated problem when it comes to disinformation. All of us immediately understand that the media savvy nature is radically different. And so we hear terms like media, help me with the terms, I'm tired. Well, so one is media hygiene here. That's a term that's used here. Media hygiene, making sure you understand what to click, not to click, how to suss out sources. So they talk about that here in Ukraine because you have an older flip phone generation that are able to get smartphones now. And I know this from dealing with 85-year-old Argentine that she clicked on anything sent to her phone and then goes, I'm not sure if I was supposed to click that. Like, did you already click it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Mama, please don't click that. So then you have the fact that the incoming disinformation is in different spheres than some of us operate. So use of WhatsApp, use of Facebook for news gathering, word of mouth. So a trusted friend who is friends with Abuela, right? And Abuela's friend, she saw this, so she sends it to Abuela, and she goes, "Well, I already know her, so I clicked the thing because I knew her." It's my friend Veronica. I've already seen this problem, and it's yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to bring that up because I heard someone ask about it, and I think it's a good space to watch what's going on in Mexico.
Yeah.
But I do think that the population in general, I mean, they've had a growing middle class. I mean,
Sure.
I lived in there 15 years, and the middle class is just growing, and they're for the most part, they're people who are happy for progress and happy for the exchange of business between Mexico and the U.S. So thanks so much, Brian. I hope the space goes well later. And to the Norman Brigade, thank you for being in Ukraine and helping them to victory.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kate.
Final term thought on that to pass to Joe. So a Syrian professor we will have join us in the near future to talk about this issue in the Middle East and some issues related to the Middle East. He used the term myth information, as in mythology. And as soon as he said it, I went, oh, there is that. So there's like misinformation with good interest, but otherwise passing wrong information, disinformation, intentional, and then myth information. He was talking about sort of like the way the church oversees these concepts that are big arcing narratives. And when we talk about certain parts of the world, the penchant for dealing with conspiracy theories, and we know who's behind it. It's the CIA. That sort of conspiracy-minded thing is a big vulnerability in the information gap when it comes to a certain generation. Totally understandable in some capacities.
So, related to CIA, I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, but in the Nest, there was a post by the CIA. I guess they were really looking for employees. It was like a recruiting video, and the NAFO crowd got a hold of it, and in the replies, and you can imagine the fun that they had with that. Lots of great memes that I ended up downloading. Some of them, Regina put one in as well. So
Absolutely. This is a good post.
Who?
Joe.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, from an operational perspective, like, right, who has the highest clearance level, like, and also access to that Twitter, because it's probably the most dangerous person on the planet right now. Yeah. Anyways, so I just real quickly, I posted up top the original interview, or at least a Politico account of the interview that Merkel did with Der Spiegel, and it kind of goes back a little bit against what, like, it's clear misinterpretation and ringing and deriving new conclusions from Merkel's words, I think, in that Spanish article that you posted. So yeah, definitely see the level of disinformation there, and I think it's worth checking out that Politico article. And then finally, just for fun, I was on DALL-E and I tried to give it a Vladimir Putin thing, and it said it violated the content policy. So I just told it the president of Russia playing chess and losing, and that's what came up. So everybody enjoy Vlad pulling a Gary Kasparov blundering in a blitz game.
very good. Disappear until I pull in. So if they want to talk about something, just request a mic. And happy, I guess when it's official, we'll celebrate happy Attack'ems Day, right?
Well, I decided to also, over the last couple of weeks, take the time to make sure that we use AI to our maximum memeing abilities. And as I have said about Prometheus, it probably was not a good idea to give the monkeys fire. That includes me. Giving me AI tools was really not a good idea. I've already created a whole range of logos for Shiba Inu dogs to be on cartoons, comic books. Now I'm basically just thinking in terms of PSYOP material so that I get bang for buck on the messages. Joe disappeared in there. But anyway, and thank you to Joe's post. I gave him Putin in a psychiatric facility, sitting there waiting for evaluation. And I don't really worry about Midjourney's prompts because essentially I learned how to kind of coin what we call seeding a character that's Putin. I have a Putin, Surovikin, Prigozhin, Shoigu. I don't know, Brian, if you've seen the video I did called The Dictator. It's a series I'm kind of running.
No, I haven't seen that.
No? Would you like me to put it in the Nest?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Dictator is going to be a dude. I don't even follow my own account that I created because I don't want to be flagged for anything. Well, first off, we have to hear the breaking news about what happened on the seizure for Moscow. But the actual video that I did a couple weeks ago at this point decided well, for one thing, I'm testing really what these AI plugins do. I mean, these AI programs do and how they operate, what are the parameters, so that when we hear about it, see it, I can tell you whether or not, yes, Midjourney will do that. No, it will not do it. This program might do it. That program might not do it. So there's part of that. But while there, I went, well, what did you just do giving a memeing expert fucking tools like this? I mean, I've literally riffed out well over 4,000 samples through Midjourney alone in 2 weeks, and I'm probably tanking their servers, constantly, feeding it different things. Like, yeah, but I need Putin taking a shit. I need him like grimacing. I need to feel like he's passing 10 stones. That face
Oh,
isn't enough. Hold on, let me think about it. Okay, him burning
oh
alive.
my
Okay, that
God.
got flagged. Kremlin on fire. Kremlin destroyed. A post-apocalyptic Kremlin. Falling out right now. I wasn't joking with Joe. I've got Russian general in blue outfit falling out a window. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, being flying in the air, landing on the ground. And I will finally get the expression, the angle, etc. that's necessary.
I love
But
that.
more important, you have to think in terms of propaganda posters and the way in which these items work. Is that if you think in terms of messaging, what is it that the Ukrainian people need to hear that inspires us? What is it the Russians need to hear to demoralize them and to make them want to give up? And one of the biggest ones is I'm going to show a lot of Russian soldiers this alone out on the deserted, destroyed battlefield surrendering. So here's an example the other day when War Gonzo, suddenly everyone's like, where's War Gonzo? And there's this video of him getting, smoked in a trench, supposedly. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't care. This is a propaganda war. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead, War Gonzo. You're a fucking War Gonzo. So immediately I riffed out a comic book cover called The Travels of or the War Gonzo Journals, the final edition, and it's him screaming his head off, and it's like, you guys, I've asked the Ukrainians, why are we on offense trying to catch the fire hose effect of the rapid fire tennis machine for disinformation, and we don't fire back, and we don't engage in the same way back? Now, there is an information warfare back, and the Ukrainians have been really awesome with it. I'm totally, like, it's beyond to say in awe of. There's a different way that can also be done, that there's this kindness that needs to be replaced, at least for the moment, with ruthlessness. That's perfectly morally okay to do. And it will be done.
How long are you going to be in country, Chris, from now? How long do you
Yavdoma.
leave?
I'm actually seeking to basically just make it a permanent situation.
So, okay.
Yeah.
You'll just be headquartered there. Okay.
Yeah. And partially because there's so many things outside of this. So let's say I wanted to deal with learning, my Czech roots or something. It's pretty easy to get out of here, go on a train, go do that, come back. If you want to meet with certain things, I have missed so many things in Europe because of being only in America, and it's a lot of money to constantly go to certain things. That here, it's a train ride. It's not cheap, but it's a lot more doable to see all sorts of things. For now, my thing is that there is not an end to this war. Therefore, I have no termination time for my focus on it. It's however this goes, at whatever the situation is. I have people I will not resolve to stop breathing until I see certain people hug. That includes my friend and his parents in occupied territories that he worries about every day. That includes my friend Tatiana having her son Ruslan home from captivity after fighting in Mariupol. There's a whole list of these things. I'm not done until those things come back together. And then when I see them all come back together, I'm going to have my chai, some last thing of shashlik, and who knows what comes next. But I will wake up in fucking defiance until we get to that fucking moment.
Yeah. If I were to walk in Irpin now, or Bucha now, would I see how easy would it be to reconstruct the genocide, the war crimes and stuff?
It would be surreal. We have journalists who are just now arriving for the first time, and they can't see the street that I saw in the first week of April last year. So, and that's the thing, and actually that's a good thing, you know. So if you, for instance, John just arrived here, John Spencer, you know, if you go to some of these areas that had conflict a year ago in the north, then you can't you can walk through. You can still have someone who basically can explain to another person, well, so on that night they came through here, but the visual orientation will be radically different because a lot of rebuilding has occurred. So especially on the main drags that you know in Irpin or the main drags in Bucha, those are under repair. I have not seen Borodyanka recently, where a very large you know, blasts went through. That was really slow last time, but in other areas like Makarev, repair is happening. I haven't seen Bucha and Moschun in the last, let's see, like 6 months. So last time I was in October. But repair is occurring on its scale. Now, understanding how the battle went out, yeah, John and others go in there, they're gonna be able to pick that apart. And we're actually not done with those stories. I know that there's plenty there. What else? There are actually people returning that were abroad that are just now sort of finding out what happened in their homes over the last few months, that they finally are coming back. And that's a big deal because they imagined one thing and they come back to another. And that might be a positive. I know 2 or 3 cases where that was a positive. They came back and things were a lot better than they thought. And then there were some that definitely hard no matter what. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, it does. Yeah, I'm just curious because I obviously when this is over and I go over there to try to help clean up after this. I want to go to Bucha and I want to go to Irpin and I want to go to Mariupol and I want to see those graves with my own eyes and partially because the Holocaust Museum. I was actually there last week. We were in D.C. for a family vacation, and there's a quote from General Eisenhower. I took a picture of it. I want to transcribe it, but it essentially talks about that that I physically wanted to be here so I can understand the debauchery, the depravity that went on here. I'm paraphrasing it. I'd have to go back and look at the picture that I took, but and I want to go there so that when I come back to the United States after the Crimean Beach Party and talk to other people in the United States about what I saw, I want to be able to say that I've been to those places. I've talked to the people there, and it's not someone pontificating about complaining about tax dollars being sent to Ukraine,
right.
Or it's real, right?
I certainly understand the motivation. It's you just explain, like if someone said, Chris, so what's driving you? Like you just summarized it. You've heard me get fired. I think you've been in the spaces when I get fired up after I've just been somewhere and someone's small balling the conflict. And I'm like, well, let me tell you what, I just got through standing next to a mass grave in Izum. You want to go on about that with me? Sorry, I'm on fire because we shouldn't experience these in the 21st century, but we are. Now, a lot of things have changed by the time you get here. So you just let me know if it is. I'll be glad to do that with you. You're a good friend. But even if it's been repaired, so to speak, there's plenty that will not go away for a long time. So trust me, you're more than fine to be able to be put in contact with very emotional sets of experiences without really leaving far from the capital, meaning like Izum is, you're looking at an 8-hour plus drive. You got to drive from here to Kharkiv down south to Izum. It's worth it if you would like. If you're really trying to understand some things, you're safe to do so in many capacities, in many of these areas. And it's okay to bear, I believe it's actually pertinent, to bear witness in modern times. I know people who make big time meccas to Auschwitz and Dachau, and it's very important to them to go stand somewhere that's beyond words. There's a place here that you've heard about, Babin Yar, but also there are other places here that are similar to Babin Yar. When you stand there, if you don't get the chills realizing that 10,000 Ukrainians were slaughtered by Stalin in the place you're standing, then I don't know how to give that to anyone else. Because for me, there's some that I stand and go, man, this is heavy, and my brain can't fathom it still. But I know I'm standing in a place that's beyond human comprehension. Right here in Kiev. Be glad to have you come here.
Hey, Billy.
Some of those you could do in a day or two.
Hey, Brian. I see
What's going on, man?
I just got finished working, but I see that there's some cool people listening into the space. This is quite the change from our normal gang of grubby
miscreants.
Yeah.
Miscreants like me. No, it's been a good space. I've been running it, since I left North Carolina, or since I left Asheville. I'm on my way to Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia, probably about another hour in the car. So warming up for the space tonight at 5 o'clock. So, I've had some good discussions here. And our friend from the Norman Legion, the commander, is here. And I'm sorry, Norman Brigade.
So I have a question to make sure we do not miss the wonderful opportunity of hiring our guests. When it comes to the Norman Brigade, what can journalists do I'm raising my hand 10,000 times in front of you to ask this question, by the way, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, to make sure that your story is told. And I know that you're not the type to draw attention, but as much to where we get the accurate picture. And let me explain a motif already in play. So I already did one narrative having Ryan O'Leary walk me through his experience in Battle of Moschun, but I've already talked to Georgian Legion, I've talked to Kiev National Police, and some others. I want to hear the other ones who were also there throwing everything at it. So how can journalists make sure that it's not even the word contribution doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean, that they're logged and properly accounted for in a good way? What are your thoughts?
If you talk about vetting some actions and stories, it's probably best to ask the commanders in which unit we were embedded with. That would make sense. And when it comes to PR, I'm so shit at it, really. I think it's to ask the right questions, to be well directed.
Right.
It's pretty much that. We understand how OPSEC works. I know that some good journalists out there, they really respect that aspect. So I don't think there should be any problem to give this kind of information, so they can communicate with proper people and proper commanders. But some people don't respect it, or they like to write fucking bullshit. So I tend to be a little bit careful with this kind of thing. Why? Because we've been fucked multiple times. Excuse my language, pardon my French. So yeah, I'm a little bit suspicious sometimes, and I'll tell you 100%. I'm not gonna tell his name, but the specific person told me again recently. He told me last year that he's like, remember, journalists are not your friends. They're not PR material. They're not gonna help you to put positive PR out there. They're just gonna put what they want to convey to the people out there. So yeah, I think it's all about mutual trust. And yeah, I understand one of those questions would be to say is remember that they have a competing agenda to yours. It's true of journalists. So the assumption is one thing, but typically there is a competing agenda, and they can think they're there to cover what they see as the truth to cover. The reason why I asked in that capacity was I just know that there are different battalions and groups that get more coverage for different reasons, and then I'm thinking up to so many people whose lives are on hold or involved, or that should be at least acknowledged because their family too, their history too, their brothers and sisters too, are doing this, and just at least having it so it's loud, because I read stuff from 100 years ago that's so detailed,
one is probably been chasing propaganda. It's actually a French intelligence officer from 1918, I think. The thing also plays into this very great read. It's a fantastic read, but it's so in the trenches of the guy who was making these notes that I wouldn't want that at the time. But as history came about, and we piled these narratives up, somebody that is not a military expedition that disagrees with me, but that's where we learn a lot of stuff. And right now that's happening. And there's a job of some journalists to think of those terms in the long term, not the ones who get famous, get a Pulitzer, get a thing, get a headline, get a leader, that stuff. Yeah. To be honest, I'm never been kind of an officer for one of the multiple reasons, and one of those reasons are at first I was keeping kind of a logbook operation. We have like a book for orders, daily orders. I was signing and sent. Obviously, it's a book, who did what, when, how. And then when we started to go to the front, obviously that thing gets thrown out of the window. I was in the field with the guys, fighting alongside the guys, not in an office or a command center all the time. So I was not able to keep anything. And in case if I was, killed or taken prisoner, I didn't want the Russians to understand the process, like the whole mentality and pipeline and everything. I really wanted this unit to remain as mysterious as possible. So yeah, I should have probably done what you said, doing a lot of book and then doing some kind of like personal journal, but I haven't done it. Well, I think too, one capacity, like writing these sort of after action reports. So if it's months later, like in the case with Brian, it's we're 2 months later, roughly. And there were two aspects of it that stood out to me as the journalist. One is I have an account of two fighters from Americans who shared their perspective. I knew at the time, well, this is just two people's account. I don't treat that as gospel, I treat that as a log. And then I came back the next day and I talked to the people who were around that specifically, who were willing to talk, and we made different notes, so they had an additional perspective that the fighters themselves can't have. They're local citizens. And when they say they saved our lives, to me, those guys never, those people saved our lives. When I die one day, I want that to be in the hands of their people. Because that's what happened, And that part of this is what people, like we have so many people watching this for from a distance, but like when I am standing there with people who are affected by it, both fighters and civilians alike, I want this to be properly digested for humanity to recognize that this isn't just another conflict, just another thing that went down. And there are people who deserve to be recognized for saving lives of other people. Those people are actually like from here. So, wow, lots of people on the roads. Right. Well, yeah, so thanks everyone for coming. That's a great topic. So, in the next, first week, I'm hosting a Ukraine for the Curious Space and lots of Eastern. Have a great guests, including some surprises that given to me in the last 48 hours. That are going to be awesome participants. And really the intent here is to really try to get more people involved in this topic, and people that have questions or just don't know a lot about Ukraine and be able to come and learn. And try to get that information, and then in particular kind of lock down some of the Russian talking points and right-wing fanatic, Russian control stuff that gets put out there. Just lock that down early on in the conversation, just for some of the stuff that's out there, and then really get into some specifics on updates on details. So we're going to talk about the state of the war. We're going to talk about just a whole sorts of stuff, what sources that are good sources of information, why college students. Actually, this is a question I have wondered about. So, like, last summer, I think we determined that the core of NATO, for example, was 35 and older, we'll say. And I was actually very surprised by the lack of young people, like younger people in their 20s that were actively interested in fundraising for the war or just just being. It seems we're shifting. Of course, it's the news. That's like, it very surprised me that we're all older. And what do you think there is something about like there's like apathy from the young people, or they don't absolutely have. I'm not sure I said all young people like this, but I mean it's just a lot of support that from on the website. Well, I think that they're focused on the same domestic issue, social issue, the spectrum over time, running again for president of the United States, and that's certainly gonna generate something to Article 5, and there was Article 5 declaration on that, and we wanted to that should be everything. So, I think part of it is actually religious focus on the things I think is fine educating opinion on that, but just anecdotally, how do you mention it, just thinking about, because there's that girl started and in the fraternity, but she's been out there, she's been in Ukraine recently, she's younger, there's a bit of a gathering with her, they have a name for it, spaces, on Friday night, Saturday night, kind of thing. But now you mention it, when I go to these spaces, you're right. I mean, it's not really not capable. It's a great team to find that Mindy and Ali are not young spring chicks. but I don't see much of that out there, really. So I think some people should probably go there and start shitposting before trying to Reddit. Potential is there, really. Well, I can say that Reddit, so I used to be Russia, and I was the moderator, one of the top moderators of the /r Russia subreddit for like back in 2009. I never went back and then replaced Reddit. And then last year, there is a group that is on Reddit called Tutors for You, and I handed the keys over to them to destroy the /r/Russia, and the moderators very quickly shut it down because they complained that they were like, trying to quiet us. They were spreading Russian propaganda because that's actually why I left. It's because I was moderating. It was dead. I was totally dead on Reddit. Then the 2014 invasion happened. This happened afterwards, and it just got flooded with Russian propaganda. Like it got activated. It was cool. It was already totally dead subreddit, and then suddenly 2014 hit, and it got this everyone got this left. But I'm still a moderator, and I'm not anymore. They kicked me out. But the main mods of Reddit. So it was Twitter allows us to shit post a lot more. I think Reddit they tightened down their moderation system. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong in debunking Russian propaganda, right? Or Nazi narratives, as we've seen in the past. And as you said, if it was part of a big disinformation campaign, they use this platform to spread disinformation like that, I think it would be good just to be there, not necessarily posting stupid memes, but probably just
having a proper presence there where we can debunk false information and shit narratives that put people in danger,
and ultimately lead to think that the Russians are doing a good thing in Ukraine.
I remember, especially in the crypto community years ago, Russia will take back fucking Ukraine, a bunch of Nazis, etc., etc.
And it was widespread amongst the crypto communities, because obviously, if you're into crypto, you try to stay away a little bit of the establishment, and if you try to stay away a little bit from the establishment, well, you're probably a conspiracy theorist, and if you're a conspiracy theorist, well, you obviously think that there was no fucking Russian in Crimea when no Russian troops in Crimea in 2014. You know what I mean? So I think, that's some videos, etc., etc. But there should probably be like a podcast, like a full podcast, because most of the younger people now are into audiovisual, like all these influencers and streamers, etc., etc. So that would be a good idea, at least having a podcast, audiovisual podcast, like a Joe Rogan kind of thing. And maybe someone has a connection to go and fucking Joe Rogan's fucking podcast. That would be fucking insane. Really. We should send Michael McFall to go on Joe Rogan. Exactly. When you get a chance, well, you should look at the next for the CIA person. It's really fun to get your ideas out there and bounce them off of other people. So come to the space 5 o'clock. Look for me, look for Ryan, look for Billy News at 69. We'll tweet out the space. Most of us will be here. Emily will be there. Ron will be there. We love y'all. We really enjoy you and we like your ideas. We think conversations